course, of course.
Hey guys, welcome back to Stellar Sessions, 4 p.m. BST on a Wednesday. Joe Reichfeld here, and of course Anthony Lee. There's a couple more be arriving shortly onto the call today. Going to be talking about publishing and ranking on Amazon. We do know that originally Jeff's bread and butter was books, right, Anthony? We're going back in the day, Joe. And there's some opportunity there still. I know this whole thing's been done to death with regards to adding an ebook, but some people are taking that shit next level, right? Good illustrations, good content, 300 or 400 pages. Maybe these can actually be sold as well as independent items. But before we get in, I'm going to share to the groups. Anthony, do you want to do a quick introduction and then on to you, Joe?
Okay. Anthony Lee, CEO of Signalytics. Long history in the world of Amazon ranking through my work with Zonblast, short tenure with Helium 10, and being a consultant and having my own brand since 2014.
Superb. And for you, Joseph?
Joe Reichfeld, e-commerce optimizer. I've been doing this since 1999. I'm consulting, helping sellers, small and large. I've worked with everything from one-person teams all the way up to Fortune 500 corporations.
Superb. And just joined onto the call here is Mel. Mel, do you want to do a quick introduction on yourself before we get started?
Oh, thank you. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's Melanie Shabanga. Hi, Anthony. Anthony's laughing at me there. Yes, it's Melanie Shabanga from Mavask Accounting, and I'm an accountant and tax advisor.
Superb. Right, so let's just go around the room. Everyone here is published, yeah? So, Mel, you've just dropped a book. So ladies first. Let's go first with you. Do you want to talk about the book that you've just published? And then we'll go into Joe and Anthony.
Yes, so really, I'm a newbie to this, which is very, very exciting. It's early days. It's just happened on Monday. Yeah. So it's a very, very exciting time, I think, for me. But yeah, this book is called The Online Hustle, whereby it is aimed to new people that are looking to launch. And the reason why it's come about is because of it's been born out of COVID, I would say. Yeah, so that's where it comes from. So, but I was hoping that it was going to be launching in August. That never happened. And I think you've got experts here who know better than me about launching.
Excellent. I just want to slot in here quickly. This is just a quick shout out. Basically, I asked Marie O'Shea to come on to the show today. Now, she wouldn't come on the show. Now, this is what impresses me about her. She's written 51 children's books with illustrations in the first lockdown. So absolutely prolific. So you may know Marie she runs the memes group with Stetson as well, the Amazon memes group. But I want to give her a big shout out because I said to her, look, get them books out. You've wrote the books. Get them onto Amazon and I'll give you a slot on Branded by Women and then you can tell your story. So anyone who's listening now who knows Marie, can you give her a little push and a little shove in the right direction as well? Because I want to see her get all these books out. Because it's phenomenal. I've seen some of her work and it's fantastic. But we need to get to the next stage. But being who she is as a person, she didn't want to come on the show because she hasn't completed the cycle. She's only wrote the books. She hasn't done the other bits. So, yeah, big plug there for Marie. Let's get her work.
51 books.
It's incredible feat to do that.
I'm pretty sure that's the hard part. Like, that's the funny thing. She doesn't want to talk about the stuff that we talk about, which is slightly less hard than actually writing the book.
Yeah, but the marketing part for 51 separate books is a mountain.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure it's intimidating, but gosh, can you imagine how much work was in front of her when she was writing 51
I think she just got on with it and then she's gone, holy fuck, I've got 51 books here. What shall I do with them? She just went like a machine. But
should I just jump out, Danny? Should I jump? I mean, I shouldn't be here. I mean, she's incredible. Wow.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, the difference is you're published, you're live, and you've worked with. We'll get back to your book in a minute because I want to go into this whole book cycle, and Anthony can talk about ranking, so can Joe as well. Because the thing is really important is there's a big opportunity still here for books on Amazon if it's deployed in the right way. So, Anthony, You were published. What were the books that you've put out on Amazon?
So actually, before I ever even got into Amazon, I did a book called Get Limitless, which was like all about brain hacks and stuff. It was terribly written, riddled with typos and stuff. But that was my intro.
Did it seem like I edited the book? Yeah.
Do what?
I was the editor of that book, so be careful. Yeah, no joking.
no, the Fiverr meme guy.
Yeah.
From the group, the Fiverr guy that we see Marie post about, that was his work. Anyway, and then when I got into Amazon, I wrote 3 books. One about like just beginner stuff, how to start on Amazon, which actually did really well and continued to do really well until I pulled it off. And the only reason I pulled it off is because me and my partner split, and we were like, what are we going to do if we're not on this anymore with the sales? And so we just pulled it off. The second one didn't do as good because it was more advanced stuff. And the third one, this is actually the funniest story. The third one was completely about failure. It was called Failing, and it failed.
Wow. So it accomplished its task.
Joe, so what did you publish? What was the book?
So I actually haven't published yet. I should be publishing in the next couple of weeks. I have an SEO book and a book about outsourcing.
Yeah.
And I'm working on a much bigger building a marketing machine book. But I have helped clients. 3 years ago, I helped a client's wife launch some kids' activity books. And 7 years ago, I helped a client launch a pretty large book, a novel that actually did really well. And the gal that the client's wife that I helped with the kids' activity books, she pulls in between $9,000 and $12,000 a month for work that she did 3 years ago. And I honestly don't think she knows how to log into Amazon.
Incredible.
That's the nice thing about books is you do the work a long time ago, and it's the gift that keeps on giving as long as it's doing well.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get into the creative process. So let's walk through before we get into ranking, for people out there who are listening who want to be able to do an ebook. I mean, we can get these shitty ebooks done on Fiverr. We know that, right? You can pay someone, say, right, I want to cover this area. Here's a few blog posts, write about this stuff, and then we'll slam it out the door. Right.
I want to throw something out there that I explain to people. The number 2 selling paperback book on Amazon sells 3,800 copies a day, and she has 4 books in the top 20. Yeah. She cleared on that book alone. She clears $500,000 a month in cash profit for something that she did 20 months ago, and she has 4 books in the top 20. She did not write a single word. They're kids' activity books. So she's bringing home $1.5 million easy a month on work she did 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah, but the moral of the story is what is the moral of the story? She didn't write a word, so she went on to Fiverr. So how did she get there? Is the question.
They're kids' writing books, handwriting, tracing, and all that stuff. She was a kindergarten teacher. She used her community, of parents and stuff to help build her book. It's all about that initial push. You get that initial push and get out of the gate doing really well, Amazon will take over your marketing. People that read this book also read this book. As soon as you're in that slot, you're golden.
Okay, so let's talk about the creative process. Mel, what did you go through? You wrote it with Dr. What's his name? Sorry.
Angelos Katsaris.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
so
that's
what
my
was your
husband.
process?
Yeah, that's my husband and business partner. And unfortunately, we did it ourselves. He's not a first-time publisher like myself. Yeah. So I just basically lent on his shoulder to do the hard work. But he did an incredible job in doing the writing. And of course, he's coming from an academic background. So we put in a lot of our 2 cents together to publish this. And on top of the work that we're doing, it's not a lot of pages, about 120 pages. But, you think that you've written the whole thing and now it comes to the structure, you disagree. You get angry for about 2 weeks, whereby you don't want to talk about the book because you're not agreeing on some of the parts.
So let me lay it out for you. You two had an argument. You won 2 weeks later, and the book was written your way, yeah?
Literally.
That sounds fair enough. Yeah.
I think you just described my marriage.
What's that?
Anthony has gone through this. When you're co-authoring with somebody else and you seriously do not agree in stuff, and you can see that everybody wants to do their best, and he wants to impress me. I want to impress him that, hey, you've written your own books before, but give me this, I can do this. And he's got his own ideas, I've got my own ideas. And when people say that you're business partners or you're married, you suddenly have the same brains intertwined. It doesn't work like that. You've got two different ideas of what you want to do and how you want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that family dynamic's difficult. I don't work with my wife. She's just set up her own little business. And I'm like, that is your thing over there. Because I think I admire people that can mix that dynamic. It's very, very difficult. When it's your partner and your business partner, it's just, it's too much to take on, I suppose. Anthony, creative process for you, book writing.
Well, I hacked it. I've taught this before. I'm actually pat myself on the back for this one. But I bought the program Dragon Naturally Speaking, which is the speech to text program, and I wrote books on topics that I love to talk about and think about. So I literally just spoke the words onto the page, and then I partnered with somebody that could take it and turn it into something legible. So literally my creative process was, if I'm taking somebody from A to Z on Amazon, what are we going to talk about today?
Stream of consciousness.
I brought my laptop with me and walked around the living room talking into it. And then when it was done, I would send it to my partner who was editing and formatting and everything. And I was just like, let me know if you have any questions. She'd come back and be like, I don't understand this sentence. And then I would explain it to her, and she made it readable. And that was it. So, I'm a big fan of outsourcing the stuff that's going to make it impossible for you to finish.
Yeah, I use that software as well. It works great. A friend of mine was one of the founders of that company.
He's a very smart person.
Yeah.
It's taken a long time, because I remember trying to use that kind of software, speech to thingy software, back in 2003, 2004. It was fucking terrible. I've tried it. Maybe because I've got an East London accent. And I don't
that was before computers, Danny.
Because you'd have to train your voice on it. So you'd spend a couple of days training this so it gets used to your voice. But I don't think
I'm trying to use it now to transcribe an interview that I did with somebody from Europe, and it either understands me or it understands him. It doesn't understand us both.
Talking at the same time.
So I have two separate audio feeds now that I have to match them together.
So so we don't go off track.
Does it now too.
So we don't go off track. Creative process. I want to get some content out to people. What are the steps that you go through? Right, today I'm deciding I'm going to write a book. How do you go about it? Right, Anthony, you talked about your outsourcing. You're using speech to text software, right, which is much more advanced nowadays. Mel, you've got background experience with your partner in that. You have a little fisticuff back at home. You win. The content goes out. But what is the structure in between of, right, I want to write a book. What's the book about? Do you start with, 12 key points that you want to cover in the box, and then you break them down into chapters? What is the creative process that way? Or are you just throwing it out on the page?
I would say for us, what we did was we wrote the structure, because it's more or less like Anthony's stuff that he teaches about. And this is also something that we've consulted our clients about. I would say most of the stuff that is in the book, and we've spoken to clients about it. And it's amazing how much you take for granted some of the information that is out there, and you think, people know about this. People know about it. It doesn't matter. It's amazing when you put together this information, how much you could help people. And that's exactly what we did. We put the titles, that this is what we're going to do. And then we split that. And I thought, I'm strong on that. I can write about it without having to think about it. And you're strong on this part, do that. And then there were some topics that we didn't agree about. But for us, we started with the topics. For me, that was important from a structure point of view. And then we went on the free writing separately on what we are actually writing. Now, I would say for us, the most challenging thing was to also then, once we've come up with the structure and then putting it in the order, what order do you want it to be? Oh my God. You think that's going to be just 1, 2, 3? No.
Yeah.
That was the most challenging part, is that this chapter needs to come before this one. This chapter needs to come before this. It's like,
well, you've also got to get the hook in there as well, haven't you? Because books can be really boring if you're leaving the sexy stuff towards the end, and then people go, oh God, I'm sending a glass eye to sleep in the middle. So it's how do you engage people earlier on? Where is the hook come in so it gets them to engage with the rest of the content, so they're not just flicking through?
Correct. It's the language, it's the styling of the book, so that it's much more readable. You're not writing a novel when you're writing business books. You are writing something that you want people to be engaging in, something that it's going to keep them awake. There is a guy that's written on e-commerce, and I think he writes about 70, 80 pages. I don't know how many books is produced out there. I haven't seen any reviews on them, but I bought one last night. And it's just literally snippets. And I thought, do you know what a best way to give out information out there, especially for people that are online sellers. You guys hate reading. For me, this is my first Amazon account. I've done my first sell. So I've never sold on Amazon. I've helped thousands of clients to expand their businesses or that sell on Amazon. But I never thought the excitement of checking how many have I sold as well as another. Sorry, Danny, I'm sort of like digressing and going on other topics, but yeah, it is exciting. The one thing that I know is that Amazon is not going to shut me down.
Yeah. Oh, right, because it's the book, yeah. Other parts of the creative process as well, Anthony, you got anything you want to put in there as well? What makes it a bit easier for people who want to generate books?
Okay, so two points. One, like how I got started was, I remember a piece of advice from an old friend of mine who basically he said, I guarantee you know something that people would pay you to learn. And so it's like, so getting started was easy because it was like, okay, well, I'll just talk about something I know more about than the average person. And then two, which ties into both how to make it easier for you to write it and how to get people to engage with it, is just tell stories, because that's what people want. Like, business books are boring as crap, dude. And every time, like, you have to ease people into the whole, all right, now I'm reading an actual instruction manual. Before you get to the instruction manual, you got to tell them a story. And it's easy to tell stories, and it's easy for people to read them. So that's my take.
Yeah. What about you, Joe?
So, I mean, I have a lot of clients. So everything I write about, I talk about in the podcast, it's all stuff that somebody's facing, you know, that somebody's going through. And as I had, you know, with my different clients, as one of them makes a breakthrough in an area and we just, you know, come up with something really brilliant, and I'll share that with everybody. So I have a shared drive that I share with my clients, and whenever I share something with one, I put it on the shared drive so everybody has access to it. You know, it's kind of the whole shared knowledge thing that works really, really well. And I mean, this shared drive's packed full of stuff. People get mad at me because there's so much stuff in it. They get lost in it. But for me, yeah, I mean, I've been creating content forever, you know, in articles and then helping clients create articles. And I have a specific process that I use Google and also Asked and a couple other sites so that we're writing content that people want to read, you know, and that Google wants. And it helps me with the longer stuff to format it like that, or else, I mean, I can just sit there and go on and on and on because I use Dragonsoft. And I mean, you can just sit here and talk and talk and talk. And then you're just looking at this 10-page paragraph going, okay, what do I do next? So it really, for me, it helps having some sort of outline.
Yeah.
So I have a point A, I'm going to start talking about this, but I need to get to point B by the time I'm done with this subject.
Yeah. What about, let's get into requirements and stuff. What are the requirements on Amazon for books? We won't completely go into all the boring shit, but basic overview, structure, what constitutes being the shortest book and how long should they be, etc., etc.
Amazon has a section, a bestseller section for 15-minute reads, and that's actually a really good target, and it's a great section to get into because lots of people like that stuff. But from a seller point of view, all the sellers that are listening to this, they don't have to write books. People sell one-page, guides for $9 a piece on Kindle, and they do really, really well. What I've kind of realized was all these ebooks and stuff that I've written for people over the years, I should have put them all on Kindle, every one of them. If I was looking at starting today as a seller, starting from scratch, I would build my marketing machine while my product is in production, and I would release a book. I'd write a book and I'd release a book. And at the end of the book, I'm going to upsell my site and my knowledge about that product. That's going to drive traffic to my site. And by the time I launch my product, I'm the authority already, and I have the trust. And it's the free and low cost marketing that's available through Kindle is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And what I've learned is that Amazon, the search algorithm works perfectly with books. It's built for books, not products. And it works really well for books. That's just was a huge eye opener for me. If you do all the search stuff, like we all try to do with our products, if you do it right with a book, it works. And you get the results that you want.
Cybees just come in and said, "Hey guys, I've taken notes of every Seller Sessions live podcast since March. I have about 700 pages of total wisdom. Do you reckon it's worth publishing? We should also have an audio book for me to do." No, I'm not going to do the audio. I'll tell you what, Si, it's not down to me because when people come on, I consider the content their content because they're speaking. So if no one's got a problem with it, if you want to turn that into a book and then we'll donate all the money to charity, I'm happy to do that. So, Anthony.
Yeah.
Algorithm. Let's talk about ranking books and stuff like that, just to finish off on the back of what Joe's saying as well.
Okay, so I want to talk about that. But real quick, I want to go back to that comment. I totally respect and understand where you're coming from with the whole getting people's permission.
Yeah.
But if these are notes and it's not like word for word what they're teaching, but instead like their thoughts on the subject, you can actually publish a Kindle paperback workbook called Notes from, maybe they can't use the word Seller Sessions because that is trademarked, but like notes from popular podcasts or whatever, and sell that, and it would be totally okay because of that.
Well, what I'm thinking as a community, because the lives have been about that from the start of COVID. That's where the switch to Facebook republished on the podcast. They can credit those people in there for their wisdom
and link to your podcast.
Well, and link to all the individual people. If Size wrote down the notes and who mentioned those, what you could have is an index of where all of those have come from, so people can look it up and go, okay, they're the ones who was talking about BBC here, and then everyone gets a credit for it.
And then the cliff notes are valuable.
You could start a group holding a. You could start a group, Danny, with that to be able to search to find out who's.
You know what, Joe? I really need to add more stuff to my plate. You can imagine, yeah. Yeah. It's kind of full at the moment, being Q4. Yeah, but start a group. And then trying to manage that on top of Stetson and Marie do the memes group, but even that's a tough one to keep a hold of.
The point I was trying to make is just that
Anthony
actually has value. That's why the Cliff Notes books exist.
Yeah.
So that he could very easily do a Cliff Notes, a workbook version of the stuff he's learned on your podcast, and then everybody benefits because you get publicity, they get publicity, and then.
Well, this is it. This is why you have an index with everyone. So from each of those pages that are published of that wisdom, and then it's citation or whatever it's called, where that it reverts back to that person. Yeah. Click on the link as it's Kindle, and it will take you to a profile of each of the people in the index, and then everyone gets taken care of. Yeah.
Or send them to an online index page if it's paperback. Anyway, we have somebody join us though, so I don't want to launch into the algorithm before we acknowledge that
Yeah, sorry. Okay, Stephen's just joined us. Stephen's also published. Quickly, Stephen, do you want to let people know what the book is that you published, as we've done everyone else at the top of the show? And then we're going to be talking about ranking and then the algorithm in terms of books as well. You're going to need to unmute your microphone, my friend.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. Technology. He's in the car. You look like you're a pilot, Stephen. You're in the car. You look like an aircraft.
You might need to make sure your audio source is what you've got on.
Oh, we've lost him.
Okay.
Yes. Algorithm. Yeah.
So what Joe said is 100% accurate, that the algorithm was built for books. Now, obviously, they've evolved a lot of it to, strongly cater to a very large portion of their business on Amazon, which is physical products. The foundation of it was built on books. And the funny thing is, in the early days of me kind of like going out there and teaching people about ranking and stuff, all of my secrets I got from forums where booksellers were talking a year or more prior to that date, the hacks and tricks that they use to rank their books. And, I mean, these guys always knew like what was going on. They understood it better than anybody else in the space. So that was like my secret weapon for the longest time, is to find what they were talking about. But the reason, obviously the reason that the algorithm is built that way is because the foundation of it,
even down to the images and stuff, the way images are cropped and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a bookstore before it was anything else. And like the search experience, like you got to think about the logic behind it too, right? The search experience for physical products was probably weird at first, because they're like, who's looking at these tiny boxes and trying to figure out if that's the thing I'm looking for. But the format works well for digital stuff. You scroll through book covers, and so that's like, it looks like that because that was the thinking at the time. Like, all right, here you'll see the book covers, here you'll see a piece of the title. People can easily figure out whether or not this is the book that they're looking for.
Yeah, products are all about keywords. Books are more category.
Yes.
And they're nailed to that.
Cool. Just quickly interjecting, if you don't mind. Jeffrey says, how do you get from the publisher section in a book listing if you self-publish?
How do you get from the...
I don't understand the question.
How do you get from the publisher section in a book listing? So the publisher section in the book listing, if you're self-publishing.
I would say from, I don't know, I don't understand the question properly, but I'm just going to say from what we did. We wrote the book and we thought that was it. We just got our book listed on KDP. And we were live. My husband uploaded it on Sunday. It told us that 12 hours it was going to be live. It was live on Monday, which was absolutely great. And we were published.
So how many categories are you in?
I think it's going to be 2.
Okay, you can email them and ask to be included in 8 more.
Oh, right. Okay.
With books, you can be in up to 10 categories. And the whole thing with books is you want to look at the categories and get into not the top level, but the sub levels of the categories, where it only takes 10 books a day to get in the top 10. As soon as you get into the top 10, Amazon starts recommending you. When someone walks into a bookstore, they see, end caps with books, and those end caps are paid for by publishers. When somebody logs into Amazon Books, Kindle Books, Amazon rebuilds the bookstore from the ground up at that moment in an instant, based on what they've read and what people that like them have read that also liked it. So it puts it right in front of them. So as soon as you're in the top 10 list, you're one of those books. And then as you climb up the top seller list, the bestseller list in that category, you get into other categories now.
Yeah.
So you want to pick a range of categories from really easy to get into, and then you're the category you want to be into.
Yeah, definitely. We look at that. I would say I was actually shocked that when we launched, I think we were number 1,100 After some really busy day on Monday and on Tuesday, we were down, I think today, number 35 under e-commerce books, which I was like, oh, wow, if my clients were launching this quick and they could come from 1,000 to 35, that would be fantastic on their products. So that's why I think it goes back to the fact that the algorithm was really made for books, not for products.
I want to go back to that question because now I'm in a rabbit hole. This is awesome.
Go on.
What that question was about was apparently not all ebook listings have this, but I just found one that does. There's a from the publisher section now. I don't know how long it's been there, but I had never seen it before until just now. But it's basically A+ content.
Yeah,
First of all, the question was, how do you get that if you're self-published? Amazon treats you as a publisher regardless of whether or not you're self-published. Amazon isn't differentiating between an established, I'm sure they have a department that caters to bigger publishers more than others, just like the physical products does, vendors. But regardless, once you're on Amazon, you're considered, whatever you put down as the name of your publisher is the publisher. You have control over that. So it's not like they're going to look at you and go, well, you're self-published. Everything on Amazon is published by a publisher, whether you name them or whether it's through a traditional publisher. But how you get that, I don't know yet. And now I'm determined to find out.
Yeah,
I can feel a TikTok coming on.
Probably.
Yeah, cool. Stephen, welcome to the show. Have we got some audio for you?
I think we've got audio now.
Yep. Superb. Right. Stephen, because you weren't here at the beginning, do you want to just explain the book that you put out and what it was about, and then we'll carry on with this part of the show, yeah?
Certainly. Actually, this is the third book that I've done, but only the second that I've gone through Amazon. The first was 30 years ago before Amazon. But this most recent one is the complete book on product design, development, manufacturing, and sales, and it is basically what you hear in the title, everything from soup to nuts. And it's been very exciting. It's been much more successful than I thought it was going to be.
Great.
And thank you, Joe. And I'm learning a lot from a lot of other people, and it's surprising that there are some things that are easier with books than there are products. And a quick shout out to Marie, who's been my behind the scenes help and advisor and researcher, who I know she's not on this today, but she deserves a quick shout out for that.
Marie who?
Same one.
O'Shea.
Same one. O'Shea.
She's got her hands on everything.
Yeah, she
does.
Yeah, no, she's a good girl. And I don't understand why she's not on the show today, but hopefully she'll listen back to this and know that we're going to support her. But 51 books, that's fucking incredible. I'm so proud of her. But I want to see her get them out the door. I've even asked Anthony to give her a hand on the ranking side of things. But I'd like to do a show with her and see where she gets with those books, because it's a great opportunity there for her. Even if they don't stick, a lot of them, you only need to have a couple of them that run away.
Right.
And she's in the numbers there to actually, fire a load of shots and see what hits the wall, and see what sticks.
Absolutely.
Ranking for you, Stephen, what did you do? Is there anything that you did when you kicked off with your books? What was the kind of marketing around it?
Oh, I came in being very unaware of how to rank in books. Yeah. And somehow I've been selling. Well, I launched in June. I'm just under 4,000 units now. So between the paperback and the Kindle, and I haven't been doing much, except I did take advantage of the Kindle Select in KDP. Right. And I found that to be really, really good. I think that's probably where a lot of promotion comes from. And to be honest, word of mouth. I got there's a couple who are on Shark Tank who got my book to prepare for Shark Tank. And because of COVID, they're stuck in Las Vegas for 9 days before they can, film. So they read it cover to cover, and they're talking about it. So I think word of mouth to me, and frankly, keeping my ears open and learning from people like Joe and Marie, and listening right now to Melanie and all of you guys, actually.
So let's talk pricing then, and working out for margins and stuff. What is the best strategy there? You're launching the book onto Amazon. What should look at? Break even, low price? Anthony, kicking off with you, what would be a good strategy
for launching? Okay, so if you want to take advantage of the promotion capabilities through KDP, you have to actually sign up for KDP Select. Like Amazon won't allow you to do temporary discounts, etc., unless you're part of that program. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so when you're part of that program, you can put in, I mean, like, you can change your price at any time, but you can actually run promotions that temporarily discount your price. So rather than kind of come out the gate at a low price, like you can price it normal and then do these promotions. That's typically, or that's what I did. Yeah. That's what I would do if I.
So it's like using the coupon code on on a product, run PPC, but then you're not adjusting the price at all. It's only when people take the coupon that they get the discount, which is often about 66%. So you still get people paying full price.
So how it works is instead of a coupon code, it's a temporary window where the price is reduced, and then that gives you the ability to do things like go find launch platforms. So once there's a bunch now, but once upon a time there was only a handful, maybe 1 or 2 launch platforms for physical products, but there has always been like a bajillion for ebooks. Yeah. And they're like super cheap most of the time. I think there's one that's like expensive at $100, and the rest of them are like between like $15 and $20. But basically they just want it to either be free or like 99 cents. So essentially the strategy is you sign up for KDP Select, you pick your days that you're going to do this promotion, then you go to the launch platforms and you schedule during that window of time when your product's either going to be free or 99 cents. Yeah. And then they put it in front of their massive audiences of book readers. And what happens is you gain in rank. If you go free, it's like a completely separate BSR. It's so weird. Like you become, #1 bestseller or whatever in free. So it's a little separated, but typically, ideally, if you have like a really good book that resonates with people, it'll get enough visibility that whenever the promotion is over, you're getting consistent sales. That's how it worked out when it worked out right for me. So that was literally what I did.
So if I was marketing Steven's book, I would take the first chapter and run it through KDP for 99 cents. And at the end of that first chapter, I'd upsell the full price book. And I'd never discount the full price book. I would just distribute that first chapter everywhere. Also, you can do PPC on BookBub. Is actually cheaper than Amazon PPC, and you can target authors. So Steven could target other authors that people have followed that write books like he does. And then the ads go straight to those people only.
That's awesome.
That is fabulous.
Cy-B, hopefully you're taking notes there, because I can feel we've got the Seller Sessions Bible 2021 coming. We'll take you to the top, baby. Subtitle. So make a note of that. We'll learn these 3,000 things to take your Amazon business into the stratosphere. What's the rocket ship world? What's the one? It's a game changer, Anthony.
Oh my God.
Game changer. Rocket your sales. What's the other ones? There's some cheesy stuff we can stick on the cover. Because the next thing we should talk about.
It's a paradigm shift.
A paradigm shift. Why did I forget paradigm shift? These 3,000 things will take you to the top, baby, with this paradigm shift. Let's talk about book covers, thumbnails, and stuff like that. How do we identify the best direction to go with that? Obviously, there's Pickfu and places like that where you can do split testing. But Anthony, how did you choose your cover?
Thankfully, the person I partnered with had an ex-husband who was a graphic designer, and so I didn't have to think about it. I was like, "Hey, what are we going to do about this? Do you want me to go to Fiverr?" And she's like, "No, I have somebody competent to go work on it."
You're going to get some stick in the memes group. Yeah, go on. You're having a little dig there.
Because Marie totally paints the picture of what it's like to work with a fiber designer.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't talk smack though. I work with fiber designers all the time, but
I'll talk smack about fiber designers, no problem.
But anyway,
yeah.
I left it in the hands of somebody who I felt. See, here's the thing: I don't have a design bone in my body, so like I don't know what looks good or bad. I'm terrible. So I left it in the hands of somebody that I just trusted. If I'm advising somebody, though, I think PickFu is probably really either PickFu, or if you have access to an audience, you just crowdsource. And I've seen it a lot in other groups, right? Somebody's writing, doing a logo or writing. I think that's a great idea. You put, A, B, or C, and you ask everybody, like, which one? And whatever the majority vote, as long as you have, I think if you got at least 20 votes, you're probably in a good place. Whatever the majority vote is, that's a direction. And then you get
part of your pre-launch marketing, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, in that too, right? You're planting seeds, especially if the audience that you're doing that with is your target market. Then, I mean, then that's a win-win. That's
killing. Yeah. So I have a workshop on my site that's all about. Well, it was for low content books, but half of it is actually for using a book as a seller, to build your product sales and stuff. And that's part of the whole thing. It's all about, for me, with everything, it's all about pre-marketing and building your audience before you launch. So you build this audience you tease them with the first chapter, whatever, and you build your group, you let them vote on the cover. So then when you're ready to launch, these people are just waiting, and they're going to buy it. You're going to have reviews at launch that you can post that day. And that's, it's all that first 10 days on a book. The first 10 days mean everything.
Mel, what did you do in terms of getting your book cover together? Was that another 2-week stretch, little argument, you won, book come out?
Yeah. With that, what we did, I would say that the other 2-week stretch was on the book title. What are we going to call the book? We came up with 21 names. And, wow. And of course, brought it to the marketing team in the office. And they say, we came up with that online hustle. I think for my husband, it was more like, oh my God, it's got a bad connotation. I was like, it's good. It's a good name, hustle. He says, oh no, it sounds very negative. I was like, we're going for that one. But what we did is we've got a marketing team whereby we put together some ideas as to what we wanted to be like. It's an easy design, to be honest. We're very humble because it's our first one. But I would say if you can get somebody who's creative, who can work with you to design that cover. And of course, I would say one time it came out, we said we want a little globe there for online. And that was it. And it was out. I mean, I'm an easy person. I want everything to be simple. I like easy.
So he's come back.
Daily dose.
Here we go. Long tail working title. DJ Danny's daily dose of 3,000 lockdown tips of Amazon product sourcing PPC branded by women on Mindset Monday. It has a ring to it. I can see it catching on.
It rolls off the tongue.
It rolls off the tongue in a kind of keyword stuffing 2008 Google stuffing in terms of meta description. But I think you're on the right tracks there, Si. Just might need to refine it a little.
I like Danny's daily dose. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a little bit, in terms of PR, I don't want to be giving anyone a dose.
Those days are long gone. Danny hasn't seen in a while.
Yeah, I won't even comment on the cheesy comment, Mel. Stephen, how did you go about designing your book cover?
I used my packaging designer and approached it the same way because it's a paperback as well, and I wanted it to be recognized from across the room. So there's a limited palette of colors and highlighting of the complete book because we've got future complete books coming out as well. So keeping it simple, but keeping having that shelf impact, and that ended up working pretty well when you look at all the thumbnails because it still is instantly recognizable.
Yeah. Do you want to go through font size, colors? Have you got some examples that people should adhere to so that there's a starting palette for their design?
Yeah. So my packaging designer, Maddie, out of Australia, she and I see the same way as far as communication, and less is more. So there's basically two different colors in my design. One which is a series of blues, and then the complete book, which is on the opposite side of the color wheel, so that it really pops out. And then the rest of the title, the complete book of product design, development, so on. So using that contrasting color, the opposite side of the color wheel, and using a limited palette seemed to work really, really well.
I think Joe, I can smell Joe's head going here. He's got some ideas. Go on, Joe. Drop it. Drop some knowledge.
I was just going to say, Stephen needs to put his book out in Audible.
Yeah,
because that's a big. You can charge 3 times as much for the Audible book, and people buy them all the time. They sell really, really good. But
I've been a
Fiverr guy that is really good. He does e-commerce pictures for under $1 each, and I've given him over 5,000 images at once before. And he's who I'm going to go to here this week, probably on the book covers, and give him a shot.
Well, I mean, we do it with products when we're looking at different usages of images, especially when you're doing annotation on the images on the second or third image, is actually generate a PDF of the search results pages and then just put them in there like the thumbnail, like scale it down and superimpose that on, and then just compare that on the mobile device. Then you can see, can you see clearly what the product is? Are the colors popping, like what Stephen says, using the opposite ends of things? And is it legible, like reading the text? Because I think the biggest thing, if you notice when you're doing annotation on images to describe a product, right? So you've got your lifestyle images, you've got your main image and everything else. A lot of people make a big mistake of putting too much text in there because they're looking on the desktop. But then when you put it onto mobile, it just looks tiny and you can't read the text is not legible.
That's why half people's A+ content looks terrible.
On the when you have your book listing, when it's just the book, when it's just your book, then the title is the cover is larger and the title is easier to read. But when it's all thumbnails, you're really looking at the impact of a very tiny image. But luckily next to it they put the title, and they put everyone's title written in an easily read font next to everyone's book. So for books, the impact of something that's really small is going to be important, because when they bring it up big, it's easier for them to read and everything. But oftentimes they'll just scroll through and see a list of books, and what catches their attention. It's either, something that pops from a very tiny thumbnail and the title, or a thumbnail that could get busy and confusing, and then you're dependent only on the title.
Cool. Any final thoughts before we sign off at all?
I'm going to say quick final. I was going to say a quick final thought is that a lot of people who do books forget about all of the back end, your keywords, choosing, filling in all of your information in this. Sometimes they'll just put in 1 or 2 words or leave it all blank, but it's just like products. You need to take advantage of that.
That's a good thing. That means that us sellers can dominate. That's why most of us who have published have.
Yeah. So actually, Stephen brought up a really good point, because there's certain categories that you have to use specific keywords for, or you can't get into that category. So like if you write a book for a 4-year-old, if you put a 4-year-old in the title, it means nothing as far as getting into a little kid's category. You have to use the word preschool as a keyword. It's the only way to get into that category. And there's like 100 or 150 categories that are specific to certain keywords. And if you don't know that, you're wondering why your little kid's book is geared towards adults, and they won't tell you.
Cool. Right. What's the best way to reach you, Anthony? Read Write Publishing? Remember that was back in the day. I need that to spell the read.
I switched everything to Anthony Lee 991. So that's my handle on all platforms, TikTok, Instagram.
Where are you at with TikTok now? 64,000 followers, isn't it?
Just under 70.
I've
hit the slump, and I'm trying to figure out how to get through it. As soon as I figure it out, I will share with everybody.
Yeah, I was going to say we should do a show on that, because we mentioned it a while ago. You started with Insta, and I think it was about 1,500, weren't you, when we last spoke about it? And that was earlier on in the year. So you needed 70,000, which is good.
Yeah, but I'm working on getting better. Anyway, so Anthony Lee 991, pretty much on every platform, and you can message me on anything.
Cool. Joe?
E-commerce Optimizer on Facebook and on the internet, on my website, ecommerceoptimizer.com, and on Pinterest, YouTube, everywhere else too.
Cool. Stephen?
Product Development Academy, the website, Facebook, and email is Stephen at Product Development Academy.
Sounds good. And Mel?
It's Melanie at avaskgroup.com.
Excellent. And also, just to let you know, Mel and Avask are sponsors of the next Branded by Women, which we'll be announcing more details on soon. I'll be back here tomorrow. We've got Kian Gulzari. I know that everyone's in Q4, but we can't forget it's Chinese New Year just around the corner. So we need to be preparing for that as well. That's for tomorrow. Kian will join me. And then on Friday is the big one, 60 guests in 60 minutes. These guys will be joining as well. So we'll sign off on Friday, the 18th, 4 p.m. BST. Make sure you join in on that show. There's going to be a little surprise we'll be sharing at the end as well. Guys, thank you for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing you all on Friday here. And remember, tomorrow we'll be back here with Kian. And if you haven't already, just check out thedaysofnuggets.com. They're dropping nuggets every 2 to 3 hours. This will finish on Friday as well. And they're raising money to go against child slavery. So go and check that out as well. And I'll see you all here again tomorrow. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday.